Your move.
What is going on, you guys? Bastion Wise here, and today we're going to be tackling one of the more fun topics we have on this channel, back to the Before You Buy series, guys. So before you buy, I know you guys actually love these series. So before you buy, series I make for these guys new watching, where I analyze 3 pros and 3 cons for each of the upcoming decks in these brand new sets, unless they're absolutely doo-doo garbage, in which case I don't talk about them. I'm looking at you, Vernisyphilis, okay? Absolute garbage. Only Persuo, Madolche, everything else about it is absolute trash. So if that deck is absolute trash, do not expect to see one unless you specifically want to see it, in which case I might consider it, but let me know in the comment section down below. But today we're going to be tackling a very fun archetype coming up, and by fun I mean extremely cancerous. It's going to be the Runick deck coming out of the Tactical Masters. It should be coming out in the next week or so, perhaps 2 weeks depending on when this video goes up. But essentially the Runick, or Mr. Rune as it used to be called, is a deck compiled strictly of spell cards in the main deck. Very similar in a sense, to Sky Striker. It's a very spell heavy deck where the objective is to not only poke at your opponent's effects and monsters, being able to destroy opponent's monsters, negate effects, destroy spells and traps with quick effect spells, but also be able to have a secondary effect to banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck, which is actually crazy. We actually have a dedicated deck out deck. So with these comes a very set of unique pros and cons, so I'm very much looking forward to this one for you guys. So if you guys do enjoy these type of videos, go ahead and let me know by smashing the like button down below, subscribe for more. We have not only Runicks coming up today, we are also going to be analyzing the Labyrinth deck, as well as the, I believe, I keep forgetting the name, Valiant, you know what I wasn't talking about, guys, the new Pendulum deck coming out, which looks really cool. At least I love the artwork for it, so I'm definitely going to be covering it if I could speak today. So definitely go ahead and stick around for that, guys. If you guys something you guys want to see, go ahead and subscribe below, and let's get right into the Before You Buy for the Runick or Mr. Rune deck with 3 pros and 3 cons. Of course, starting off with 3 pros. Alright, guys, so let's kick things off with the pros for the Runick archetype. Pro number 1 is that it is an extremely unique deck. By unique, I mean it is a strategy that we have not seen in the TCG for quite some time now. I can't even remember the last time. It's been so long. I can't even remember the last time I actually played against a deck out deck, but this is definitely going to be the case. I think the last time I actually decked somebody out, I was playing Trickstar going up against True Draco in a regional in Brooklyn about 5 years ago now. It was a lot of fun, and it was a grindy match, but you know, that's not why we're here. So Mr. Rune is again a very unique win condition that we have never seen before. Not only does it deck you out, but actually banishes cards from the top of your opponent's deck, which makes it extremely potent, especially in the current meta where a lot of the decks actually want to mill cards at the top of their deck. I'm looking at you, Tier Laments, and Sprite as well. Sprite not necessarily mill, but they do pump a lot of cards into the graveyard, especially like Swap Frog, things like that, and Ronin Toad to go ahead and recur back, and then it has advantage that way. So that's what a lot of decks currently are doing as well. Sword Soul plays around with the graveyard, Branded Despia plays around with the graveyard, Dragon Link plays around with the graveyard. Fawandry is the only one that doesn't, so it might be a little bit more immune to it, but overall Mr. Rune is absolutely really powerful. Being able to banish cards from your opponents from the top of your opponent's deck means that, and this being a brand new essentially feature that we're seeing in Yu-Gi-Oh, it means that there's not many specific counters for that one type of strategy. Cards come off top of my head are cards like Artifact Lancia. Might start seeing a little bit more play in the side deck now that that is becoming might become an essential rogue to tier 2, potentially tier 1 deck. It might be able to go ahead and compete depending on how people are able to go ahead and mix this. I think the best version of this, it might be mixing it with a Sky Striker, just because it has a lot of synergy there, but that's getting a little bit ahead of myself, guys. Honestly, best pro for this is that it's something that we haven't essentially seen before, or something that we haven't seen in a very long time. So I'm very excited to see how exactly Yu-Gi-Oh players and Yu-Gi-Oh duelists are going to be adjusting to this in this upcoming format post Tactical Masters. Pro number 2, guys, for the Runick is actually going to be the ability to mix with Sky Striker. So normally I don't like to mix archetypes when I'm talking about one specific one in these before you buys. Normally the before you buys are supposed to be specifically about that one archetype and how it does on its own, but let's be real here. I mean, Sky Striker's immediate synergy with anything spell based just goes through the roof, especially being mixed with a deck that also decks your opponent out, plus being able to have a lot of the same effects that the Trickstar quick play spells already have is absolutely could make one of the most menacing decks that we've seen in Yu-Gi-Oh for a very long time, and extremely cancerous as well. So Konami, go ahead and ban Mystic Mine now while you have the chance before this comes to a play, because that's another really big thing with Mr. Rune is that it doesn't need any monsters on the field, so you could literally just have Mystic Mine chilling on your board for the longest time and not have to worry about anything at all, which is actually so crazy. That it has that type of effect where it can actually sit on a Mystic Mine and not summon a single monster your entire duel, and you're perfectly fine with it. Yes, Runick, I keep calling Mr. Runick. You guys know what I'm talking about. Runicks, they do have a few monsters coming in the extra deck that can be summoned using any of the the majority, I should say, of the Mr. Rune cards, spell cards, I should say, but you can easily finish off an entire game and deck your opponent out without having to summon a single one, which is why I think this deck is extremely powerful in that aspect as well. So overall, I think Mr. Rune is going to be extremely powerful, especially mixed with Sky Striker, just because its overall spell synergy, being able to pump a whole bunch of spells in the graveyard, also being able to recur them with the field spell is actually insane. So getting a little bit too ahead of myself into pro number 3, but you guys essentially get to see what I mean. This deck is going to be absolutely insane. Whole bunch of spells in the grave, whole bunch of Sky Striker. Being able to rely on Ray's recursion effect as well is actually going to help this deck out quite a bit. At least actually have a little bit more of a field presence as well in the event that it needs it, but essentially this deck does not need it, like I said before. So that is going to be for pro number 2, guys. Honestly, that's going to be a crazy menacing deck when it actually comes out. Alright guys, pro number 3 is going to be the insane field spell that Runick is going to have. Runick is going to have an insane field spell. Don't remember the name of it, but I have it right here somewhere. So essentially, it makes it so that all of your Runick quick play spells can be activated during your opponent's turn, pretty much adding a whole bunch of hand traps to your hand. Absolutely insane. So you don't even play any hand traps in this deck because the field spell takes care of it, making again every single card in your hand a hand trap that not only messes with your opponent's board or graveyard or anything like that, but it also keeps banishing cards from the top of your opponent's deck, which is just so scary to even think about, that anything can just be activated from the hand, no problem whatsoever. But that's not even the best part about the field spell. So the best part about the field spell is that at any point when you activate a Runick quick play spell, you can actually activate the field spell effect to then target up to 3 different Runick cards in your graveyard, and put them in the bottom of your deck in any order, and draw 3 new cards, or up to the number of cards that you put back into your deck, which will be 3, which is insane. I mean, you're refilling your hand for free. You're refilling your hand for messing with your opponent. You're refilling it's just plus on plus on plus, and it's actually ridiculous. You're never gonna run out of interruptions in this deck, and I think that's actually something that is extremely scary and something that's definitely worth looking out for and taking note of with this upcoming format here. Now I know that we're all focused on Sprite Tier Elemental, best deck, whatever, but let's not, let's take a breather. Alright, new format, I understand, but we have to keep our eyes open for what's going to be coming in the horizon, and this deck could very easily sneak up on us very effectively. Alright guys, so I'm pretty much just been praising this deck for the past 10 minutes. Let me go ahead and get over some of the cons of the deck, because with great power comes some great cons and some great downfalls as well. We've seen this with any other deck. Each and every single deck has a huge weakness, and with this video I'm going to go ahead and analyze 3 main weaknesses for that strategy as well. How about this? Let's start off with con number 1, is that it is a spell only deck. What is a card that immediately ends anything spell-based, anti-spell fragrance. Is that getting side decked right now? Of course it is. So that's an immediate end. That's pretty much gonna say sayonara to any Runick deck in the near future. Yes, it does have a quick play spell that can pop your opponent's spell's traps, which is really, really good. But if you don't get the chance to search it and you just have to hard draw it for your opening hand, that makes it a little bit more difficult in the long run. Does it now? Is because essentially going to become a side deck battle at that point, guys. But anti-spell fragrance immediately kills this deck, unless of course someone's going to find a way to go ahead and mishmash this with something else. But the overall reliance on this deck on spell cards can be a huge downfall. Now, we don't have anything crazy in the meta like Imperial Order at the moment, which would decimate this deck 100%. But you have to really just keep your eye out for that as well. Make sure you have your anti-spell fragrances ready. If you don't have a playset, I would highly recommend you picking them up, guys. They actually did get released in Tactical Masters, if I'm not mistaken. MST.TV did a box opening. I believe there's anti-spell fragrances in their rare copies. So definitely go ahead and make sure you have at least 3 of them. It should be anywhere between 50 cents to $1. So getting yourself a playset should be anywhere between $1.50 to $3. So I would definitely recommend, if you guys have not done so already, definitely make sure you are picking up at least 3 copies of anti-spell fragrance, because this deck has the potential to go tier 2, tier 1. So let's go ahead and just be ready for it, guys, for the future. Alright guys, time for con number 2. Con number 2 is going to be the lack of field presence that the deck has. Yes, each and every single, well, I should say most of the Runick spells are going to have a secondary effect where they can actually special summon a Runick, I believe they're called Runick, fusion monster from the extra deck to the field. Unfortunately, these are not very menacing monsters. I think the most of your stats do not get over 2,000. It's going to be 2,000 like defense. So they're not going to be the most blowout card. You're not going to be summoning, 5-headed dragon from your extra. You're not going to be doing any of that nonsense. So let's go ahead and be careful with that. If you're going to be playing Runicks as a, if that's the deck you're going to be piloting, if you're going to go up against this deck, its overall field presence is really going to be its downfall. It's really just reliant on having a lot of quick play spells and its opening hand being able to quickly pop against each and every single thing you're trying to do. Normal summon Moe, activate effect, negate, pop, things like that. It's very it's kind of like a beehive. When one attacks, another one goes, and then another, or a wasp's nest essentially. It's kind of what it makes me feel like. Not like Bee Trooper, but it's really, really cool in that aspect. But having an actual field presence, it has absolutely zero. So that's going to be a huge downfall essentially, because a lot of times you're not going to end up with any monster on the board, and if you do, it's going to be something that's extremely weak and very, very easy to get over. So unfortunately, with the Runick spells, you are going to have to choose between one or the other, either activating the effect to negate or pop, or you can go ahead and summon out the Runick Fusion. If it did both, this deck would be out the water, insane, because then you have that wall of fusion monsters to go ahead and protect your life points. So that's something that's definitely going to be huge with this deck. I guarantee you it's going to be a Mystic Mind based deck in order to prevent their opponent from attacking. So the lack of field presence is going to be huge as far as a big con, and something to definitely look out for if you're going to be piloting or just going up against this deck here in the near future. Alright guys, for the final con of the Runick deck, I have its Field Spell Reliance. So yes, we've gone over Field Spell Reliance decks before, ABCs, other things like that. But this deck definitely defines what it means to be a Field Spell Reliant deck. I mean, yes, I've spoken about how the Field Spell is actually insane. It does a lot for the deck. It has recursion for the spells. That turns everything to a hand trap, which is great. But if you don't have it in your hand, then you're gonna lose a lot of actual advantage in the game. So what does this mean? If your opponent is playing Mystical Space Typhoon, Cosmic Cyclone, Twin Twister, Heavy Storm Duster, Ghost Ogre also affects this as well, Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, anything like this that would destroy spells, traps on your opponent's side of the field, anything that would destroy spells, traps on your opponent's side, you're gonna lose the game, unfortunately, because if you don't have any of your quick play Runick cards set, and your opponent goes Mystical Space Typhoon, pop the field spell, you're done. You're cooked because you have nothing on the board. Yes, you can chain while it's still on board, But yeah, I mean, the recursion effect is all going to be gone. It forces you to activate everything immediately. So overall, it has a huge weakness as well, with not just its field presence and its immediate losing to anti-spell fragrance, but the big one is just overall field spell reliance. Whether it's not just the Runick field spell, guys, but also Mystic Mind, which I guarantee you is going to be played as a 3-up in the main deck for this deck specifically, is something that is a little bit concerning when it comes to the overall future of this deck. Now, having said that, this deck has a lot of upside and a huge downside as well, guys. So will this deck be a rogue deck or will it be a tier 1 deck? It's really up to chance. I'm leaning more towards it'll be a tier 2, potentially 1.5 deck. It just really depends on what cards come out, what strategies are getting mixed with. I think overall, like I said before, mixing it with Sky Striker really just helps the deck not be so field spell reliant, because if that gets turned off, then you can still rely on the Sky Striker aspect of the deck as well. So that means something to consider. Well, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, guys. If you guys do enjoy these type of videos, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe for more, guys. Like I said, I have Labyrinth and I have also the Valiant deck that I'm going to be doing here in the near future. So if that's something you guys want to see, go ahead and let me know by smashing the like button, subscribe button, and comment down below what deck you guys want me to analyze next. And I'll see you guys in the next one.